If we're labeling things for kids and they're not able to say, no, that's not how I actually felt, we're not going to be able to appropriately meet those needs and rectify the situation. We're going to, again, put our Band-Aid, our fix on it and continue moving on. And then it leaves the kid with this deficit.
Hello, and welcome back to You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I am the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions. We are a counseling agency here in Iowa, and we are still providing in-office mental health counseling services to all ages in any of our 6 office locations, as well as we're still doing telehealth and we're still doing phone counseling.
And I'm Krista Hunt. I am the Vice President at Heart and Solutions in charge of our BHIS department. So BHIS stands for Behavioral Health Intervention Services, and that is where we go in home and work with children ages 4 through 18 on different behavioral skills. And then we can also see them in the office, in school, or through telehealth as well. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
I sent that to somebody the other day and they said, what's an indifferent counseling experience? And I
Not
said,
good or bad.
Yeah, it's just what it sounds, indifferent. And sometimes counseling experiences feel indifferent, but they can still be very beneficial, even when they feel in the moment like, we're just talking about my cat. We're just talking about my houseplants. And it can kind of feel indifferent a little bit. And so that's why we include that indifferent part. But I thought that was a funny question. What does indifferent mean? And I thought, gosh, why do we include that? So now we know, because we've kind of checked in on it. We know that, no, we're doing that intentionally. We want to hear those indifferent stories as well, because they're just as important as the positive experiences and the challenging experiences. All right, so we post on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so we encourage you that if there is a task that you hate doing, don't do that throughout the week. Just batch that up for Sunday night. So I never put away any clean clothes except for Sunday nights. And if it doesn't get put away on Sunday night, it's getting put away the next week. And so we encourage you to do that, or any other task that you hate doing. Save it up for Sunday nights at 5 p.m. You can listen to the podcast that gives you the entire week to get scheduled with your counselor, to contact one of our guests about the services that we are sharing with you every single week. So today we have a special guest here, one of our favorite coworkers. We've got Mary Kate Tufte here with us today. Welcome, Mary Kate. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about Mary Kate. Mary Kate is an outpatient mental health therapist here at Heart and Solutions in our Davenport office location. She was working in a residential treatment facility with children, and then decided, you know what, I really, really care about mental health therapy. I really want to be a mental health therapist. Went back to school, got her degree in social work, and has continued on this journey, this career journey, towards her true passion of doing that individual mental health therapy, that one-on-one with clients. So thank you for being here, Mary Kate. It's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
So tell us about mental health therapy. What was it about that originally attracted you to wanting to do this as your career?
As many social workers start out, it was that desire to help people, right? To make those connections and have that one-on-one ability to impact and affect other people's lives. Very quickly, I realized, especially in school, I know that the University of Iowa told us, like, just because you want to help people doesn't mean that you're going to be a good social worker or a good therapist. And I really had to change my view of what I was doing as a therapist from, actively helping people and I'm going to save the world, to I get to bear witness to people's struggles, and I get to be that person that just is a vessel to hold whatever might be happening in somebody's life. And it doesn't always mean actively helping people. It just means standing there with them on the journey sometimes.
I love that differentiation between helping as an action verb, right?
Right.
Like an action verb, like running. Okay, I'm running. That's an action. And helping in the form of being. To be is still a verb. It's just not that action verb like running. And I think that the word help or helping as a verb takes on such a different meaning and a different significance when it is used in that active format versus when it's used in that that state of being format. And so I think that's such a great distinction, and that save the world type of feeling that, gosh, so many of us have, I think, in this field, but also outside of this field. I think in so many different fields, we want to help people, we want to do, but there's such a difference between the way that we help people. If I'm a firefighter and I go run into buildings and put out fires, I'm active. That's an active helping. And what we're doing is so very different from that. So how did you come to kind of conceptualize these two different forms of helping? And maybe what are some other examples of each?
Man, I think for me, one of the biggest realizations that helped me differentiate between the different types of helping was working in that PMIC facility, the pediatric facility that I worked at, because the barriers that I encountered there, the problems that kids were having weren't things that I could do anything about. They weren't things that I couldn't reunite them with their parents. I wasn't, actively involved with the courts. There was nothing I could do except for be there. And that being there allowed them to kind of open up and process through some of those feelings that they were having. And although I didn't solve any of the problems, they were able to kind of come to terms with what their situation was. And so, yeah, Julie, I love your example of the firefighter, right? Like that's what I think a lot of social workers, young social workers, we see ourselves as like, we're going to save the world, right? We're going to change policy. We're going to impact people's lives directly. And sometimes that's just not, the obstacles are too big. And that's okay. And it's okay to keep working on those things, but also to realize that sometimes, sitting and coloring with a kid who's had a really just a discombobulated day, right? Like they're just out of control, and just having that safe place and being that safe place that they can come in and calm down and express how they're feeling is just as powerful sometimes as being that firefighter who's running headfirst into fires.
Absolutely. The person sitting with the homeowner after they've escaped the fire, and the person that homeowner can start talking to about, this is what happened, right? And how important that service is. And it's not as flashy, right? Like it doesn't, when we write it out in our journal and we go, well, at the end of the day, I put out this fire, right? Versus at the end of the day, I sat with them on the curb as we watched the fire get put out. And they told me about all of the things in their house, right? That they're going to be looking for, that they're going to be missing. And it's not as flashy, but it's so important. And if we then said, well, I'm not a firefighter, but I need to be helping, and we go run and start spraying a hose at the fire, who's doing our job? Who's going to do that very important role if we're running out and trying to grab a hose to try to help the situation? I just think it's beautiful. I think this idea of the differentiation.
Yeah, the experience that really solidified that, I'm really glad that I kind of came to that realization in the PMIC facility. But my husband tragically lost his dad 6 years ago. And that was that first real experience of there is nothing I can do. There's absolutely nothing. There's no physical work to be done, but that emotional work of just being a vessel and being able to be there and say, like, there's no real ladder that I can help dig you out of this hole. There's no solution, but I'll sit down there in that hole with you, and that you're not going to be alone. And just how powerful that was.
It's so challenging when the people that we care about, and we care about our clients, and we care about our families, of course. And when the people in our communities or people we care about are hurting, it is so tempting. It's so we to do that. And the more that we think that we can fix it and try to fix it, then who's doing our job? Who's listening to our loved ones? Who's listening to our client? Who's being the person who can hear them and can be with them without trying to fix it? Because when there's a loss in a family, everybody wants to do something, right? Like, can I mow your lawn? Can I bring you 10 casseroles? Like, what can we do? Right? Because the doing feels good to the helper.
It helps us. It helps ease that uncomfortable feeling that we feel as somebody who's maybe a third party and just viewing the situation from the outside.
It helps ease the discomfort of not doing anything. Like, we think about completing tasks, and we think about like, oh, it's so hard to get certain things done. But then not doing something can sometimes, or not doing an action verb can sometimes be so much more difficult than mowing all the lawns and making all the casseroles. And I think that's such a beautiful point, that when we're trying to help and we're doing all of the things, it's to help ourselves.
Right. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And so we're trying to help fix things in the way that feels good to us, but we miss, we don't give the person who's actually hurting an opportunity to say, like, that's not what I need. We miss that opportunity to have that conversation of what they actually need, what is actually going to help, what does that look like for them? And we can make things worse that way.
Yeah,
absolutely. It can make things worse. There's some guilt that happens when somebody else wants to help us, and we can tell that they really want to do something nice for us. They really want to try to make us feel better, and they want to like put a smile on our face, and then it can feel like guilt if we go, well, I don't feel better. Like, I still am grieving. I still feel this way. And then it can complicate that by either feeling pressure to behave or perform in a certain way, or having to set that boundary of, no, I don't want that help, or no, that help isn't what I need. And that can be so difficult in the best of times,
Right.
let alone when we're going through something challenging personally. What are some tips that when our loved ones are hurting, or when our loved ones are experiencing something challenging, and we feel that desire, that temptation to go, oh, let me do some things, like, just give me a shopping list, give me a to-do list, give me something to do for you to try to fix it, that fix it idea. What can we do to try to alleviate some of that?
So something that I've implemented with my friends and with my husband and my family is, when I have something that I need to get out, I will ask, or if someone comes to me and says that they need to get something out, I will ask, do you need advice? Do you need that? Or do you just need someone to listen to you? Like, what do you need? Do you need an action? Do you need that comfort, that space to vent? And if I'm going to someone else about something that I need to talk about, I'll ask if they're in a good space to hold that. And I will preface my conversation with, this is what I need by saying these things. Because that gives the person that you're talking to then control to either say like, yes or no, I'm in a good place for this. Like, I don't want to dump all of my bad day on somebody else who's had a bad day. And I also don't want them to, like you said, offer help and suggestions that are really just going to make me more angry or more upset. So having that open and honest, upfront conversation about this is what I expect out of this. And then giving people the language too on their end when they have something like, is this something that you need me to help find solutions with you? Or do we just need a listening ear today? That has really helped.
Absolutely. A great way to communicate that, even when it's small things, because when the small things set that kind of mode of communication, they set that opportunity to be asking those things when maybe it's those small day-to-day things, right? Like, oh my gosh, my car would not defrost and I was super late this morning, right? And somebody's like, well, why don't you get a better ice scraper?
Right.
And you're like,
Not
so
what I needed.
Yeah, wanted to complain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then being able to, with those small things, just having that be our habit as we go, then when those big things come up, we've got those modes of communication in place and those methods, and we are more empowered with the people who are using those kinds of respectful types of communication. We know that we can go to that person and we can say, look, I don't need any solutions. Like, I don't need any of that. I need to say some stuff. Can I say some stuff right now?
Right.
And I think it is asking for consent. And it's practicing consent even in our emotional sharing and in our day-to-day sharing. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, that empathetic and respectful environment to have that communication. I think too that a lot of times we get, when we are sharing those things, your gut instinct as someone who's listening is to say like, it's going to be okay. It's okay. Or to be kind of dismissive of their concerns. And that communication gives you the ability to really take a step back and see what they need first. Because it's okay is never usually a great way to approach a conversation where someone's having a hard time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Nothing makes me less calm than somebody telling me to calm down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I ran a race recently, and as I crossed the finish line, they were saying my name, and this was a lifelong dream. I felt like I should have been excited, and I was not. I was miserable, and so I crossed looking like this, like a melted candle. I was just crossing, dragging myself across this finish line. And when they announced my name, they said, "This is great. Smile a little bit, show us you're happy." And I was like, I am not happy.
You don't understand what I've been through.
Yeah.
And it just, but these are things that we are somewhat trained to say to people, right? Is like, smile, or like, oh, cheer up, it'll be okay, or cheer up, other people have it worse, or look at all the great things you have. And it can be so detrimental to relationship building and to verbal processing and emotional processing when best intentions, and sometimes the best intentions part makes it more complicated.
Right.
Because if someone's a jerk to you, you go, oh, okay, they're just a jerk. You can't deal with that a little bit.
I think it harkens back to that guilt that you were talking about. Like, oh, now this person's trying to make me feel better and it doesn't make me feel better. It makes me feel worse, but I like them and I respect them. So how do I politely say, like, please stop saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very challenging. And so I love your ideas and the practices that you use of modeling that for the people around us, because we can't make our support systems. We think about, well, the people in my life, gosh, people might be listening to this and going, oh my gosh, I wish that, Mary Kate was my sister. I wish that, Mary Kate was my coworker or friend. I wish my family would do that for me, right? Ask me what I need. And what I love about what you're saying is that we can model this for the people in our lives. We can't force them to do any of this in order to support us, but we can model it to them by asking them these questions. What do you need? And then it makes more opportunity for those people in our lives to support us in the way that we are supporting them.
Yeah. And even if, like you said, you can't force people to implement these things, but if you start a conversation with that, are you in a good, safe, emotional space that I can vent to you? And then I need whatever, that gives them the opportunity to respond. And if they don't, then you can politely leave the conversation, right? But at least you're making your needs known.
Absolutely. Very, very important and a difficult thing to do, but a great way to do it is to be able to set those boundaries and ask other people about their boundaries. And then when they answer, no, I'm not, I can't listen. After the day I've had, I can't listen to anymore. And we go, okay, because we asked. And so we're going to respect the answer that person gives us. It gives them that opportunity to set that boundary with us, and to, like you said, to be that safe person that you can say, nope, I do not feel like having a conversation like that, and that it's okay, that it's not going to damage that relationship.
Right. I heard a quote the other day about boundaries, and that just it was speaking to the fact that we don't put boundaries in place because we don't want to be in that relationship. That a lot of times they're viewed as, a negative thing or something, that it's a consequence of an action. Whereas really boundaries are saying, like, I value this relationship so much that I need to put healthy boundaries in place so something doesn't happen to ruin it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It is, it's bumper cars on bumper bowling, right? There's the bumpers you can put on the lanes. And I have a 6-year-old, and whenever we bowl, it's bumper bowling. There's no gutter balls in bumper bowling. And I love this idea that you're talking about, because those bumpers in the bowling alley, those are a boundary. Those are a boundary on where the ball can go. And the only reason I'm going to put those bumpers in there is because I want the ball to go down the lane. And if we look at a maze, right? A maze is boundaries all over the place. And we might run into one, and then we have to change direction. But the reason that they're there is to guide us towards that ultimate end result goal. And we wouldn't be running into those walls or have those walls there if we weren't trying to get to the end of the maze. And so I think that it does take so much energy to set and maintain and discuss and review and change and adjust boundaries and expectations and understandings in relationships, any kind of relationship. But I love what you're saying about the intention, because if we didn't care, there would be no point. We wouldn't do it. That's a lot of work.
Right.
It's a lot of work, but it's because that person, that relationship is worth putting in the work to protect that relationship.
And to have that ongoing end goal of, a constructive, healthy relationship, as opposed to something that's super lopsided that doesn't add anything to either of your lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that quote, and this concept that you brought up about boundaries, and it really does come into to work in this field, especially when we're doing that one-on-one counseling, because somebody listening who might be on the fence about counseling or thinking about counseling, when you go see a professional counselor, hopefully there are going to be some pretty strong boundaries put in place on those sessions. And sometimes that can feel very, very challenging. That can feel like, oh my gosh, are you saying this because you don't like me? It can feel personal.
Right.
And I love what you're saying about it. No, it's so that we can have that professional and productive relationship.
Right.
Absolutely. I think therapy is a place where we can really practice with somebody who's setting boundaries with us in a kind, respectful way. Because sometimes when we don't have boundaries set for us, or when we don't set boundaries in our relationships, then when the boundary is set, it's like a rubber band. The boundary or the expectation gets stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched, and then all of a sudden it snaps.
Right.
And then we go, well, that boundary wasn't fun. I got hurt when that rubber band snapped. I don't like that.
Right.
Whereas if we along the way go, well, this rubber band can only stretch this far, right? And then we put it back and then we stretch it again. Then that is so much less painful in the long run. But it's challenging to do.
It is. And I love that you said that, therapy is a good place to test that, because setting boundaries when you've not set boundaries in your relationships is very difficult, and you're going to get some pushback. And so I start all of my sessions with I reflect a lot in session. So repeating back and kind of synthesizing different paragraphs and things that people have said. But I want you to tell me if I got something wrong, or if I am I'm trying to think about your body language and take in all the input of how are you feeling? And so if I judge how you're feeling and that's not how you're feeling, please let me know. So that's a good way to practice that boundary, especially with kids, is I will purposely say something a little bit off from what I think that they were probably feeling, and see if they're going to correct me. If they feel comfortable enough in that relationship to say, not quite, that's not quite what I was getting at. Because I think it's intimidating when you have a professional saying oh, I think it sounds like you're feeling this, and they're like, no. It's hard to say that to someone that they're getting it wrong. But I encourage all of my clients, if I get it wrong, tell me that I'm wrong. It's okay. You're the expert of your own life. And that's a good way to practice that ability to set boundaries.
Yeah. Absolutely. What a great technique. And especially with children. There's so many expectations on children, I think, especially to be polite and to be respectful of adults and to comply and listen to what's needed. And yes, all of those things absolutely have a place, and we need to know how to do that. But at the same time, we need to know also how to not be compliant when we need to not be compliant. And we need to know how to challenge things when we need to challenge things. And we need to know how to not be polite and go with the flow when it is crossing a boundary, or when it's crossing into a harmful situation or an uncomfortable situation even. And I think that as a society, we teach kids about, listen to your elders and respect and we do a lot of that. I mean, a lot of it. And we don't do so much of, okay, but if somebody tries to grab your arm, all bets are off, right. Or, I tell my daughter all the time, if somebody ever tries to get you to go somewhere else, or, I said, you don't be polite. You scream as loud as you possibly can, and you kick and scream and you spit until somebody comes and finds you. Right. We don't do a lot of that because there's so much focus on manners and
Compliance.
Yes.
Because it's easier for the adults if they're compliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So being able to, for a child, with all of that teaching that's happening and they're learning to do these things, for a child to be able to say, no, I was more disappointed when my friend said that to me than I was jealous that they said that to me. right? And for a child to say something like that does show a lot of trust. And it does show, that bravery to be able to say that, especially to an adult, and especially to an adult in, as therapists, there's that sense of like, oh, that's an authority figure. And in therapy, we're trying to take some of that away intentionally and be able to say, nope, I am a human and I am valuable, and you are human and you are valuable. Even if you're 5, you are human, you are valuable, and your opinion matters here.
Right. I see that a lot in a lot of my younger clients where teachers, they act out and the teacher will come up and say, well, I see that you feel angry. Okay. And then the kid's like, well, I wasn't really angry. I was, hurt by whatever happened. But they don't feel like they can say that they were hurt or that they were disappointed or whatever it was that they were feeling. And so they kind of, it confuses them emotionally. Like, was I really angry? Is this what anger looks like? What is that? But also I think it takes away from our ability to help them with what they need, because we're going to treat a kid that's angry differently than we would treat a kid who's hurt or disappointed. And so it takes away, if we're labeling things for kids and they're not able to say, no, that's not how I actually felt, we're not going to be able to appropriately meet those needs and rectify the situation. We're going to, again, put our Band-Aid, our fix on it and continue moving on. And then it leaves the kid with this deficit.
Yeah.
I think with children, and all of these are, very valid points with adults as well. But with children, I think there is that power dynamic already in place, just by virtue of being an adult and a child, just by virtue of being, 5'4" and talking to a child that's 3 feet, right? There is that kind of built in. And so being able to model that, nope, I care about what you're saying, and it is safe to correct me. It is safe to challenge those things and the things that I do, and to tell me how you feel, because if they're not able to tell anybody how they feel, then what is the point of trying to figure it out for themselves too?
Right. I laugh that you say 5'4" too, because I'm thinking, if somebody's thinking that, if a kiddo's thinking that about you, I only would love to imagine what they're thinking about me at 5'11". I sit on the floor a lot during session. I'm going to bring myself to your level. I am not scary and intimidating.
Absolutely. But I mean, there is that, physical difference. I mean, even the difference between 5'4" and 5'11".
Yeah.
There is that difference. Krista, how tall are you? You're about there.
5'8".
Also, okay.
Right in between you
so
guys.
we've got all these varying levels of height, and it does make a difference. And what I love about it is that you acknowledge those things. You don't go, oh, just treat me like any other child, treat me like I'm 3 foot, also like a child. You do things intentionally to even that playing field, to bring their value, and I highlight their value as a person, and highlight that is equal to ours as a therapist and as an adult.
Right. Yeah, I think especially in therapy, it's important to do things intentionally. So how you sit, where you sit, your body language. I hate sitting behind my desk because I don't want people, I have people who sometimes mistake me as a doctor. I'm not a doctor, right? Like I don't want to come off as this person who's typing things and going to give you things to do and then you're just going to be all better, because that's not how therapy works. And so, taking myself away from my desk, sitting on the floor with younger kids, making sure that I'm not distracted and I'm actively engaged and just present with the person can be really healing and therapeutic.
It is the basis for any intervention. And I think that sometimes I love that you bring up kind of the medical model, right? Of like, okay, my leg hurts, so I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to give me a prescription and then that's it. And that medical model can sometimes translate into the mental health world. And when people are coming to see us for the first time, it's very tempting to be like, oh, well, that's how it works at the doctor. That's how it's going to work here. And it is such a mindset shift, because we're talking about things that we can't see, we can experience them. I can experience when a person is present and engaged and hearing me in that session, but I can't see it. I can't count it. I can't quantify it. And we live in such a quantifying world that's an adjustment to be made.
Absolutely. And you see clients come in and they're like, well, how many sessions until I'm better?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I am very big on, I am not the expert here. You are the expert on how to fix whatever situation that you're in. This is your life. You know what you need to do. I'm just here to kind of ride along with you on that journey and maybe repeat some things back to you that you've kicked around in your head, but haven't really made any decisions on. And it sounds different coming out of somebody else's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, I will argue with myself sometimes through my therapist, right? They'll say, they'll repeat back to me and their summary is correct. But I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I know I just said it.
It just hits a little differently when it comes out of somebody else's mouth.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because it gives those thoughts a chance to come into the world and be really present in the world. Whereas in our head, they sound different.
Right.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, I love these concepts that you've brought to us today about, the difference between helping, especially in social work, because social work has such a wide variety of different roles that you might play with a person as a social worker. And, so from residential to, you have a background in healthcare and healthcare medical social work, and then doing the mental health therapy now. And so there's such a wide variety of different ways that somebody could be a social worker and interacting with people. And some of them are very active helping verb. But mental health counseling is very, very different. It is helping for sure. And we're the only ones who can do that kind of help for that person a lot of times. But it is different. So it's a very important concept. I'm so glad that you brought it to us.
Yeah, I'm glad that you highlighted that healthcare social work piece too, because that was super active. That was, we're finding resources where I say a lot of times, like, we were putting Band-Aids on bullet holes, right? Like, we couldn't do anything about the system, but we were trying our best to get resources and actively fix situations as best as we could with what we had. Whereas, like you said, therapy is so different. It's not necessarily, plugging holes with resources and trying to actively improve situations, but rather taking a look at, where people have been and what they've been through, and acknowledging and validating that their experiences are seen, they're important, and where they want to go is up to them, and really, giving that hope back. Healing and hope, I think, are the two big things in therapy.
Absolutely. And those are so important, and hope especially. Hope is another one of those intangibles. We can't measure it, we can't, but it is so vital. And I think it's such a great way to think about therapy. And if anybody's on the fence about trying it, it's a mindset shift. It really is. And if your therapist isn't fixing your problems for you, good. They're not supposed to. And some that can be so frustrating if we're going in expecting that. So I love this because it can really help people listening to go in with a different expectation of what therapy is.
Yeah, that's huge, is that expectation shift, right? I love that you said, like, we're not going to fix your problems. That's not what I'm here for. And I will tell people, like, that's not my job. My job is to help you fix your problems, because I know that you can do it.
Absolutely. And how empowering is that, right? That we have control, not of everything, not even of most things, but we do have some. And that the person that we're working with as our therapist, that they're going to do everything in their power, hopefully, to not take that piece that we have, that piece of control that we have, that they're going to keep handing it back to us, even if we want them to take it. Please decide this for me, right? Where should I go to college? You tell me, please. Because sometimes it can feel easier to have somebody do those things for us. But how rewarding when we do it for ourselves. Beautiful. Well, Mary Kate, what other suggestion might you give if someone is listening, they're on the fence about starting counseling? What other suggestion might you give to them?
I would say try it once. Go in with no expectations. Don't tell yourself that you're going to find a therapist and you're going to go every week for, 2 months and then we're going to be good. Go in with the expectation of going once. Go to the intake, see how things go. It's okay to take things one step at a time. And I think in order to really open yourself up to the possibility, we have to also allow ourselves to have that escape, that safety escape too. So let's not put so much pressure on ourselves that this is going to work, this is going to be great, or this is going to be the worst thing ever. Go once, try it. If you don't like it, there's no pressure to come back, but try it. You never know unless you try.
I like that.
I like that. One session at a time, right? They say take things one day at a time, one session at a time. Thinking about the next 20 sessions is going to be overwhelming to anybody, including your therapist. So one session at a time. And I love how you highlight the no expectations part, because sometimes there can be a sense of like, well, don't go in with negative expectations, right? But at the same time, even those positive expectations or the ones that feel positive or helpful when we're going in, they're still expectations and they can still trip us up a little bit. So I love that you're identifying like both sides of that coin.
Yeah. Go in neutral and we'll see. That way you're pleasantly surprised or not. And there's still no expectation. There's no perception that like you failed then.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love that. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, Mary Kate. This was wonderful. I think that these concepts that you've brought up are so helpful, and I hope that somebody listening hears this ability to model for the people in our lives that I can say that I need help or I just need to talk. I can express that to other people, and I can ask other people what they need from me as I'm supporting them. I think that that's a really, really helpful, very practical piece as well. So thank you so much for being here.
I am Mary Kate Tufte, and I need a counselor.
Awesome. Me too. So does Krista. We all absolutely do. So thank you so much for being here. If you are in the state of Iowa and looking for outpatient mental health counseling services like we talked about today, for yourself or for your children or your adolescents, give us a call at 800-531-4236. Telehealth is available for anywhere in Iowa. So as long as you live in Iowa, telehealth is open to you on the phone or the computer.
And like Julie mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we post new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central. So save up whatever task, whether it's laundry or meal prepping or whatever you hate doing that week, and do it while you listen to us on Sunday night. And we can help convince you to call a counselor or call your own counselor and get started with services or get your next appointment scheduled. And if you have any questions for us, you can reach us on our Facebook page at You Need a Counselor Podcast or on our Instagram at You Need a Counselor Podcast on there as well. And I'm Krista Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you. Bye.
Bye.